And let me just ask Wendy, should I continue to use the
Yes,
16?
please.
Okay, thanks. And here's the information you can use.
Okay.
Okay, and thoughts on what you're seeing here?
That makes sense. Personally, I don't have kids, so I prefer everything to default to parental controls not enabled. But
Okay,
I suppose that's just a demographic issue, whether you have more people with kids or without kids using it.
right, thanks. All right, so tell me about what's going on here.
I clicked on settings and now I seem to be stuck on a blank screen.
Okay, so we'll give it a couple seconds, see if that refreshes, and then we might need to swap out the phone. They tend to heat up a little bit, so it may be that we need to use a fresh one.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take a break for a minute and have some coffee. We'll sort of reset the phone experience. Thanks.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed with the Gear VR. Once you put it in, like they have an optional front plate to put on over it, and that just makes everything heat up way too fast. I don't think I've ever put that thing on after the first day I owned it.
Yeah.
Just because,
Yeah.
you're maxing out your image processing power and then you're going to wrap it up completely. Seems
Yeah. Thanks. Let's see. Yeah, so if you're okay to keep going, we'll have you go ahead and put that back on. Great. So feel free to recalibrate or reset the controller if you need to.
That's good.
And from here, find and play Silicon Valley. And so what's your strategy to look for it at this point?
Well, didn't know whether it was a series or a movie, but I was already in series, so everything
Okay.
seems to be arranged alphabetically, which makes sense. So
Okay.
just scroll down until I get to Silicon Valley.
And how's the scrolling going for you? Do you
It's
feel like
okay. It's a little slow, yeah, it's a little slow and awkward. Like I feel like I don't really get. Oh, that's interesting.
what was that?
Scrolling up works. Maybe it's just the way I'm doing it. See, yeah, it must be just the way I'm doing it. When I was doing it before, I was getting a lot of like kind of jerkiness and half scrolls rather than see like there's a little bit of momentum to it, almost like you're flipping a physical wheel.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Okay.
It's just yeah. See, oh, there it goes. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to get. Like I know, S is way down there, but it's a little slow to, take like 20 flips to get down far enough.
Okay.
So do you want me to go ahead and play it?
Yeah, actually, first, why don't you tell me a little bit about what it's about?
Okay, looks like it's about a programmer. There we go. Okay, so about a bunch of programmers who live together. And gets to deal with figuring out how to sell his compression algorithm.
Okay. And how did that go reading the text there?
It's actually a little bit hard to read. It's kind of spotty.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like it doesn't seem really, the lines don't seem really solidly drawn. Seem very, very spotty. Maybe a little bit pixelated.
Okay. And thinking about how much information there is, how much do you think you would typically read?
Typically read of a show
to find
description?
out what it was about. Yeah. What feels like a good length to you?
This is actually pretty good. I mean, it tells you, who the main characters are going to be, what their first or, primary, plot point is. Feel like this gives me a good idea of who I'm looking at and what they're doing.
Okay.
I probably would not read much more than a paragraph about that size.
Okay, thanks for that feedback. So go ahead and play Silicon Valley. And as you're kind of watching this, I'll ask you to do a few different things.
Ma'am, do you want a window or an aisle?
I don't want anything here. This is my second act. Selena Meyer travels
First,
the
I'll have
globe
you
spreading democracy
turn the
like
volume
patient
all the way
zero.
down.
I was the first female president, and I will not work for less than 87 cents on the dollar.
And tell him I'll stand at a glass podium and wear shorts.
Okay, how'd that go?
That was pretty easy. Just, look around for it. It's up in the upper right corner, which, I mean, I can't think of any other program where it's in the upper right corner. It's usually, like down here in Windows. I think, like YouTube, it'll be down here on the left, but still, you just click it and there it is up in the corner.
Okay. Now turn on closed captioning. Okay, and how'd that go? Any thoughts on?
That was pretty easy. Just a little bit odd. All of the options are way over here on the left, and all of the information is way over here on the right. So kind of, particularly with the distortion that the headset gets at the periphery, it's kind of a little bit weird to kind of have to track across the entire field of vision to see what was going on at the edges, but it
Okay,
wasn't difficult.
great, that's very helpful, thanks. And what is the closed captioning saying?
I mean, Kid Rock, apart from you guys, okay, there's $40 billion net worth walking around this party.
Okay, and let's say you missed something that was said. Back it up a little bit so you can see what they said.
So that seems, I mean, it's pretty obvious, just like a mouse, just, click on the progress bar. It's really difficult. Like I went back like 45 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
It's really difficult. If I just miss something, I probably only want like 15 seconds. One thing that the Gear VR headset has, I mean, it's annoying touchpad on the side up here, but actually, I don't know that I've tried this in Netflix, but I know just the regular video application, you can just slide
Mm-hmm.
and that'll do a slow scrub. Whereas this, it's hard to fine tune, and the numbers on the bottom of the preview thumbnail that tell you where it is
Yeah.
are really hard to read. Basically illegible. I mean, I can get kind of the difference from general shape between where it's at 1 minute something versus 2 minutes something, but I would not feel at all confident about being able to, move back in increments of less than a minute.
Okay, great, that's helpful. Now turn off closed captions. Okay, great. Those are all the things that I wanted to do with the player. So from here, let's say, this was a show that you were kind of getting into and you've got a little more time. How would you get to the next episode?
Oh, and on what I just said, as I look down here now, I can see it looks like a little skip back and forward button, but I can't read the numbers to tell how far it's going to go.
Okay.
There's so one, there's extras. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, so just back out to the landing page for the show.
Okay. Right. So let's say you want to find the 6th episode of the 2nd season.
So just go to season 2. And there we go.
Great. Okay, Okay, now find and play the movie The Aviator. And what's your strategy for finding the movie?
Well, it starts with an A, so it should be fairly close to the top of movies. Unless it does. I think looking before it doesn't do that annoying thing where it counts the as part of the alphabetical. Not sure why I'm having trouble scrolling here. Oops. Did not mean to click. There we go.
Okay, great. Can you tell me how long the movie is?
2 hours, 50 minutes.
Okay. And what is it rated?
There we go, PG-13. Oh, 2 hours, 51 minutes.
Okay. Any thoughts on how that went, finding that information? Anything that we can do to make that easier?
Seems easy enough.
Okay.
I don't know that the difference between clicking on the thumbnail to play it versus this is immediately clear, although it does have a little arrow there which indicates, there's something. Although the behavior feels a little bit different just because in a series, when you click on the thumbnail, it takes you in and you see information first. Yeah, it feels a little bit different right off the bat, but it makes sense. I mean, with a movie, there are no seasons or episodes to worry about. And it's not difficult to click on the information bar, so having done it once, it wouldn't bother me at all if I needed information.
Great. Okay. So let's say you're watching. Actually, let's go ahead and play The Aviator.
Okay.
Okay, and let's say you're watching this and going along, this movie you like, you get interrupted and need to get up and go do something. What would you typically do to sort of make sure you could watch when you were ready?
With Netflix, it can tell when you remove the headset. So
Okay.
it has a proximity sensor on the inside of the headset.
Okay.
Well, I guess I should say that's a GearVR thing, not a Netflix thing. But this doesn't seem to have that, so I would go here, pause it, and then go do whatever and come back to it.
Okay. And let's say you're interrupted again and you're like, oh, I'm not going to get back to this today. I'm going to have to pick it up tomorrow. how would you expect to
I would,
watch again?
well, I would expect, or at least hope, that it would maintain my progress if I needed to exit out. So if I back out, go somewhere else. Wow,
I was seeing some
that
weight.
is
Okay.
really warming up out there. So if I go to something else, I would hope that it would keep track of my progress in the aviator.
Okay, that's helpful feedback. We'll move on to the last thing, and for this we'll start from the home screen. So if you could go to the home. And what's going on here?
Well, there was this big mysterious mountains icon that not sure what that was, but generally if there's a big icon that's there right at the start, that's usually the home button.
Okay.
Or, although it takes me here and clicking on that doesn't seem to.
Let's talk about this a little bit more now that you're here. What is this for, and what can you do here?
That's a good question. I mean, this is obviously the little home theater environment. Oh, are these different theater environments that you can choose? Yes, they are. Different backgrounds. Okay, so that's the mountains because it's a landscape. Okay, that makes sense then. Stick with our.
Yeah, what are your thoughts about those different environments you were looking at? Is that something that you would do, or?
I might. I mean, they seem, seem kind of fun, interesting. If you're really into Game of Thrones or Westworld, you can have that background.
And what would be an ideal background for you?
I like the home theater environment. Like Westworld is too bright around the edges for me. It makes it, the home theater environment, it looks like a screen. It feels more immersive, whereas the background is so bright that it kind of steals some focus from the content itself, and it's, just a big image hanging in the air, so
Okay.
It's pretty and neat if you're really into Westworld, but it's not as immersive. I don't know if that's because the phone is overheating again. But I would like to, there we go. I'd like to see if it dims sufficiently when I click on a show.
Okay. What characteristics are important to you for a background?
For me personally, something preferably darker. See, like this, it did dim, but everything is basically white to begin with. Let's see, how did you say? Was it holding down the bottom one?
Yeah, the one that's closest to you. Just point forward in the direction that you want to look. Yeah.
There we go. That's nice. Like this whiteness, even dimmed, is, it's still just stuff that I can see that's not the movie. I liked the home theater environment just because everything was sort of kind of dark red and brown to begin with. So when it dimmed out, I honestly can't remember whether I could still see the background or not.
Okay. Great. There's one more quick thing. We're just about finished. There's one more quick thing I wanted you to take a look at, if that's okay. And I'll need to remove the headset for a moment so I can swap out. But while I'm doing this, I'm interested to know, compared to the Netflix system that you use currently, are there aspects of that that you find easier to use or more enjoyable?
Honestly, it seems really, really similar, which for me is a good thing. I greatly prefer to have just, kind of the same experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Didn't know if this one had the other one. Oh, thanks. Yeah, here we go. Thanks. Go ahead.
no,
Sorry.
I actually like the home theater environment a little bit better than the one for Netflix. I don't know whether it's a little bit lighter, but like Netflix, you're in a living room and you have a coffee table with
Yeah.
magazines and some signs or posters, and even when it's dimmed,
Mm-hmm.
the stuff you can still see the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm watching a movie in VR, it's like, the living room environment is neat and all, but I didn't put the goggles on because I want to see a living room.
Right.
Very much. I personally would prefer it if the background just sort of dimmed out entirely, and then it was just black,
Okay.
which would feel more immersive and probably be less. It's anything that's less pixels to push around is going to reduce heat and improve battery life. I don't know how much, but
That's great feedback. Thanks. Okay, so if you wouldn't mind popping that on for a minute, this should be pretty quick. Thanks, Wendy. Here you go. Okay, so for this, let's say you wanted to settle in and watch something, and you kind of you had a recliner at home, or you're able to really sink into your couch and lean, kind of lean back quite a bit. Do you see a way to alter the screen?
well,
Or how would you hope
The-
that would work?
I mean, because you can do that laterally just by holding the home button,
Mm-hmm.
it would seem like a good thing, like it would be the same thing to alter it vertically, although there's another little button up there. So let's see what that guy does. I just click on it. Oh no, that just removed the background. So let's see, on Netflix you stare straight up and you see a little thing up there that you can do. But
Actually, if you want to, why don't you go to that little menu icon in the corner and see if we can get something to show up for a sec. This is a quick little prototype, so things might not be all hooked up. But okay, so you're saying you clicked that button and you would expect it to be above you. Oh, there you go. So go ahead and redo what you had done before to make it appear above you.
oh, so that button was it.
Okay. So any thoughts on how that went?
I guess the loading time was longer than I would have expected because I was sitting there for quite some time before the button. I mean, once it all loaded up though, the button worked exactly as expected.
Okay, and that part might not be hooked up correctly. I just wanted to. Okay. Great. One last question, and you don't need the headset for this, so you're welcome to take it off if you want. Thinking about search. Is search something that you do within a headset to find movies or TV?
Kind of as a last resort, mainly
Mhm.
because typing is so painful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, because in that environment you're limited to hunt and peck.
Mm-hmm.
So I would tend to, you know, like if I were looking for the aviator, you know, it's an A, so I would find, you know, go by genre or by alphabetical or find some way to zero in rather than, you know, if it were something that, you know, something that started with an M or something, and I weren't sure what genre it were in, then I would search, but it would probably be my last choice of a way to get there.
Okay. And have you used keyboards before within headsets?
I only kind of half touch type,
Mm-hmm.
so like, you know, I don't hunt and peck, but I actually need to look down at the keyboard frequently. So a physical keyboard for me is.
Have you used any of the ones where it's just a picture of a keyboard where you've kind of used
point at it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that.
How'd
But I mean,
that go?
it's fine. It works.
Yeah.
But you're using a pointer, so.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like you can actually type. You have to just kind of.
Yeah.
A, B, C.
Okay. Great. Gotten through everything I wanted to today. I have a quick survey that I'll ask you to fill out. But before that, is there anything I didn't ask about or anything that kind of stayed with you or things that you'd want to make sure that we were addressing as priority?
I wouldn't say. I mean, the only thing that I found really kind of weird was the initial issue where it just tells you take your phone out of your headset.
Okay.
Like, if it said, you know, you need to sign in, take your phone out of your headset, like that's one thing, but it didn't feel like part of the process. It felt like it was breaking. Like, you know, oh, it's an error, take the phone out, you're getting kicked out. So that.
Great.
For me, I would prefer some sort of message telling me what was going on. But that's the only thing that really stood out to me.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. Let's see. If you would fill this out. And basically it's just trying to capture some, you know, your overall impressions. And if you would answer it based on kind of what you experienced today in our session and reply based on what you saw through the HBO content itself. So that's where we're trying to focus our feedback less so on the headset and the controller.
Right.
But that said, if there were cases where an interaction with the controller kind of overrode, you know, or was more important to you than the content or what you were doing, we make a little note so that I know that how you're answering is really affected by your use of the controller or the headset itself.
Okay.
So, great. Thank you. thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And you drive over today?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'll walk you downstairs and get you set up with parking validation.